Let's talk about what things that I'm currently working on and how does that relates to open source things. First of all, I'm actually bringing this smartphone newer software because this smartphone is very old, and I bought this smartphone in 2021, and it was like it doesn't have any new software for this phone, and so I was like maybe I can turn this phone into some kind of newer Android architecture by installing like custom ROMs, but it doesn't have a custom ROM for this phone because this phone is too old. So I don't mean that this phone is too old, but it's actually pretty old because it was released in 2013. So anyways, can I use this? So I was going to bring this from a newer software, but it doesn't have any custom ROM for it. So I thought that I'm going to make my own, but it's so difficult because they are not very beginner friendly. So even though open source community is very large, there are not many beginner friendly tutorials. And I was literally overwhelmed by the enormous code base of the AOSP. So I actually need help. So that's why I'm talking here. So anyways, let's talk about planned obsolescence. It is actually when we buy smartphones, let's say when we buy a smartphone that is from OEMs, let's say it's Android, an Android phone, they usually have their bootloaders locked, and having their bootloaders locked means that the smartphones have their kernel locked, which means they cannot run any custom software other than software apps, which means you cannot run any custom kernels on your smartphone. You cannot basically run a custom operating system on your smartphone. So that's why I turned into unlocking the bootloader is the very first step that we have to do before making any changes, any modifications to smartphones. So after unlocking the bootloader, you can actually modify the smartphone software. So what I'm showing you guys here is the device sheet of my own smartphone. That is from 2013, and it is HTC One M7, which is the mainland Chinese version, and it has dual SIM. So wait a second. So that the board config is absolutely different. So the board config here is the config for my own smartphone, and the one here is the board config for the international version of the HTC One M7. So as you can see here, wait a second. It's supposed the international version supposedly to have no real SD card storage because it's a single SIM version. But since I'm modifying the smartphone to make it support the TWRP recovery, so I'm actually editing this config here. But actually sorry, wait a second. But before actually working on making the TWRP a reality, I have to overcome many hurdles first. But I don't know actually if this is the correct way. So as you can see here are the notes that I have taken recently. I mean, not taken recently. I've taken up for a long, very long time. I have to learn about everything about AOSP, the large code base, the project first before actually working on. But it absolutely overwhelmed me because there's so many things here, and I can't really get a very good grasp on the entire project. So if you guys were me, what would you do? Do you guys have any answers? I mean, and you guys are facing a very large code base. So if you guys have no answers, then I guess I'm just going to. Maybe I cannot.
The approach is good.
Yes.
You just learn about everything that you need to learn about, and you you try your best to find how to boot it up.
Thank you very much. And
I think it's an industry problem that the phone is more or less should be open source. The Linux is open source, but they haven't open source how to build a working version of the phone, so you can get started and by modifying it. Instead, you try to assemble it and trying to port another version, and that's very difficult, right?
do you mean that I should not start from scratch?
I'm saying that the vendors don't provide it. It's working configuration. That's a problem, right? So
Actually, the vendors have provided it, and there are some open sources kernels online. Let me show you.
If in fact that you are working on hardware, it's this version of an AOS version, but within next year, the new versions come out. In fact, when you have any development, that when you have something on something system on top of this version, for example, this version we will have some whole architecture will be changed. Underline will change it. You have to get with the new versions about the system. In fact, Android change it, have a major version next year. That for example, 16, 17, 18. So you will keep one version. It's very difficult to keep running. It's hard to keep versions.
Yes.
This is it is very hard to do that.
Yes, you're totally right. So that's why I'm going to bring Android 11 to this phone, but it's so difficult, man.
Yes, in fact, I see your the scenario about the introduction of you about the development. And that this presentation title is about this open source.
Yes.
So as in order to replace the step ROM, the step ROM is open source version. But I find that actually the project actually is a slow development cycle. In the past, I also keep watching this distribution for a long time. You see that the hardware supporting mobile devices is so little, and you think that, for example, you cannot. I think it's impossible to buy a new ones. But the latest one more mobile phone to let it with the Android phone, and then the testing the installation system, install the OS. I think this is hard to this is very hard to further develop. In fact, the project itself is not very accurate.
Yes, you're totally right. And the community of let's say custom ROM and Android modification is dying. But I want to do.
But in fact, I would like to share my
Sure.
my minds. For example, because I said before that for a long time ago, I also get to watching looking for this project. I also download that distribution and also the root by Android, and then we install the OS, and then it's okay, very good. However, and then because that the Android phone or mobile phone is getting cheaper and cheaper.
Yes.
Something like that, people will buy the new one.
Yes, you are right.
Yes, and then of course the old version model has a problem. It's hardware problem. It's a battery problem. You find the good phones, second phones,
Yes.
and then the first problem you can fix the battery problem. And then this stop. For example, the internet to have to replace the battery. Okay, but I think that I want to share my mind is that I would like to looking for another solution. Let's say, for example, I'm going to just
Yes.
I want the vision is that. Now, how about when you looking for mobile phone? For example, looking for single board computer. For
Yes.
example, Raspberry Pi,
Yes.
Pi,
Yes.
something like that. This all usually they would like to ship it with Debian, Debian running distribution. But this is a solely to distribution, actual distribution right there. You see that something notice boards, something like something. You go to shopping mall, some notice boards. They will show this, show the information boards. They will something like that. How about with this is using the Android and then other third party low OS. This is this cost saving and give good liabilities. So that is good. I think that the distribution you mentioned before that has already ported to Raspberry Pi. This is but just a little bit of Raspberry Pi. So that I would like to, how about the distribution, how about the system, how about the application not only to mobile phone, is also working for single board computer.
So working for single board computers as well. Well, it's actually better because it's much more well documented. So the roadblock that I'm facing now with this 2013 smartphone is that it has not much documentation. Maybe I shouldn't be that stubborn to make a newer Android version for this, but you're totally right. I should look for other solutions. So maybe
It's okay,
yes.
it's okay. You're working hard. I think you are working hard.
But I've been wanting to bring Android 11 to this 2013 smartphone for a long time. Maybe I should keep it up. Maybe you're right. You're right.
No, I think it's you're learning, right? This is the important thing is that you're learning about developing AOSP systems. So even if this particular phone is very hard to develop,
Yes.
there are other phones that have better documentation. And once you learn how to do it for a better documented phone, maybe you get a 5-year-old Pixel or something like that that already has original LineageOS support.
Yes.
You can start playing around with it. And then once you learn how AOSP really works in how it boots up and all that kind of stuff, you can come back to your original phone and try to recover.
Actually, I actually attended Edward Wu's speech. His talk this day morning, and he was actually doing something that's similar to what I want to do, and he is even better because he is a very experienced and advanced developer, and he has been doing this for 8 years. And the reason that why I joined this conference, why I am speaking here, is I want to force myself to in 2 months I want myself to make this a reality. But I'm very sorry to you guys here because it didn't happen.
Tell us what maybe you managed to do. Like, did you manage to build the kernel? Did you try to upload it?
Actually, wait a second. So I actually managed to do these device tree virus, and then it turns out that there's also a kernel thing that I have to solve. In which the kernel itself is already very large and is 120 megabytes here, and I don't know how to start. Besides what you are looking here is the teaming recovery project, and there are some images for a similar phone, but it's an international version, and I couldn't find this source code, so I couldn't port it here. Maybe I have to start from scratch. I don't know. Maybe I'm very sorry to you guys here. Maybe you guys will speak to me.
Are
Yes.
you able to find maybe the international version somewhere on the second-hand market and learn the basics on that maybe? Right.
You are absolutely right. Maybe I can try that. Yes.
I think think don't give up. I think that's the important bit. We do technology because it's hard, right?
Yes.
So otherwise everybody can do it. So you're doing a very, very hard thing and you're trying, which is the important bit.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Do you want to say more, or
Maybe
do you want to wrap up? What do you want to do?
No, or like maybe you can tell us about what you've researched about the coding so far.
What I've researched about is the device tree is actually I learned much during this. For example, I learned about device tree, I learned about U-boot, I learned about bootloaders, and I learned about plant obsolescence, which is that actually on the SoC on your phone, which is the CPU on your phone, there's already a bootloader etched, which is physically etched onto your chip, and it can't be modified. It is pointing to a primary bootloader, which is the primary bootloader also points to secondary bootloader, and this is called a chain of trust. And any disruptions or any corruptions, let's say if you manage to modify the bootloader for a bit, let's say within a single bit, they can be found, and your phone just refuses to boot. And I don't really love the marketing, the strategy here used by Android smartphones OEMs, because you don't actually own the phone you bought, because it doesn't even allow you to bootload your custom firmwares or softwares without their permission. Let's say, for example, a Samsung phone nowadays, you have to request Samsung server to give you an encryption key to let the bootloader allow you to run custom software on it. So I don't really love this. Yes.
Any other questions or remarks? No? Yeah. You want to say more?
Okay.
You're good? Yeah, thank you so much. It's hard, as I said. Building Linux kernels has always been a very high barrier of entry, and I applaud you that you're trying to do it, and you're learning a lot, and that's super important. So if you can give a round of applause for the valiant effort. And I do think that what you're trying to do is also important, right? Because we have all these songs that are being thrown away, and trying to recover them. It's hard doing it one by one, right? But you are trying, and it's a very valuable lesson. So thank you so much.
I also want to add one thing, is that in many third world countries, for example, in a second-hand phone market in Nigeria or India, people are still using these legacy phones. So if I could manage to give some custom ROMs or higher Android versions to those phones, those very poor families don't have to buy a new smartphone, but instead they can just install those custom ROMs on it and make them support newer software and apps, so that I can probably help them, maybe make them less economically or financially stressed. So this is my ambition, but I'm still miles away, and I still have lots of things to learn. So thank you guys for your support by presenting here and listening to my rants and my failed story. Thank you guys.